Tom Jones, a name tied to a voice that can shake an entire auditorium with a single low note. He walks onto the stage as if he were born to stand there, powerful, commanding, driven by pure instinct. But behind the cheers, beyond the lights of Las Vegas and the millions of records sold, Tom Jones's life has never been a complete love song. It is the story of a man both worshipped and worn down by the very glory he created. From a boy growing up in a poor working-class neighborhood in Wales, once confined to a small room for 2 years because of tuberculosis, Tom Jones stepped into the world with a voice that felt like a weapon for survival. Music saved him from poverty, yet also pulled him into the inescapable whirlwind of fame, temptation, and choices that forced those left behind to pay the price. Success came early, too big, and it carried a private life that was never truly at peace. He is the man who once drove audiences into frenzy, who stood alongside the greatest icons of the 20th century, who was knighted for his contributions to music. At the same time, he is also a man carrying losses that cannot be undone, relationships marked by hurt, and a loneliness that grows more visible as old age approaches. The story of Tom Jones is not only a journey of talent and glory, but a portrait of contrasts between stage power and the fragility behind the curtain. So what is the true cost of living an entire life under blazing lights? From that glow and those contradictions, Tom Jones's story slides back to a completely different starting point. No lights, no stage, only coal dust, cold air, and a voice that did not yet know whom it would save first, the boy himself or his entire family. Thomas John Woodward was born on June 7, 1940, in Pontypridd, and grew up in Treforest, South Wales, in years when Britain still carried the deep scars of war. His father went down into the mines each day, bringing home the smell of coal and a fatigue that never fully left. His mother stayed home, stretching every meal during rationing, keeping their small house warm more through patience than fuel. There was no surplus, no real choice, only the need to keep going. School opened no doors for Tom. He struggled with words, read slowly, wrote poorly, and in an era that had not yet named dyslexia. Teachers saw distraction. Classmates saw a boy who couldn't keep up. And Tom learned early to hide his insecurity behind silence. Music became the only place that did not judge. At just 5 years old, his voice made adults pause in church. Choirs and local gatherings gave him the feeling of being seen. His mother, despite the lack of money, still saved what she could for a few records, a few bus fares, small amounts, but enough to nurture an escape route. Then, illness struck. At 12, Tom contracted tuberculosis and was isolated for nearly 2 years. His room became his entire world. The window marked the boundary between him and the life continuing outside. Neighbors kept their distance. Relatives wore masks and gloves when placing food trays down. The feeling of being left behind needed no words. In that solitude, BBC radio became a second heartbeat. American R&B, blues, and gospel slipped into those endless afternoons, shaping the color of his voice, teaching him to use sound as a survival mechanism. There, singing was no longer performance. It was breathing. During those long days, Linda Trenchard passed by his window. Waves, small notes sent through friends. Quiet glances from outside became rare points of light. When the world shrank to 4 walls, and her presence anchored Tom to life, planting the seed of a bond that would follow him for decades. When the door of illness finally closed, Tom did not step out feeling freed, but with a fiercer hunger for life. At 16, he left school with no qualifications and no regret. The classroom had never been a place where he felt fully present. Words made him feel lost. Red marks on pages only deepened the sense of judgment and abandonment. What pulled him toward the world was the rhythm of night. Yellow lights in bars, the smell of cheap beer, laughter that burst too loudly, and the feeling of being seen, even if only for a moment. In a small town with strict moral codes, that choice was seen as straying. Tom was not seeking approval. After 2 years confined within 4 walls, he chose a faster, louder life. Odd as if only that could erase the memory of the silence that once suffocated him. In 1957, Linda became pregnant. The wedding happened quickly. No romance, no preparation for what would follow. When their son Mark was born, Tom suddenly stood in the role of a grown man inside a body barely out of adolescence. Friends his age still talked about fun. Tom learned how to carry responsibility. Daytime became a chain of jobs, none truly his. Construction sites with hammer blows and sweat-soaked shirts, a glove factory heavy with the smell of leather, a paper mill trembling with machinery, door-to-door sales with a forced smile and a heavy sample bag. The small wages made each week feel like a survival equation. Pressure came not only from money, but from the eyes around him. A young family under scrutiny. A young man expected to be respectable before he even understood what respectability meant. At night, but Tom changed roles. Pubs and working men's clubs opened, cigarette smoke curling under low ceilings, voices colliding without apology. The stage barely had room for a microphone and a few steps, yet there he regained control. His voice tore through the noise, rough, alive. Carrying influences absorbed from those afternoons listening to the radio in his sick room years earlier. Every song was a confrontation with an unforgiving crowd. If he was weak, he would be swallowed. If he was strong enough, he would be kept for another night. Applause promised nothing specific, but it hinted at the possibility of another path beyond daytime shifts. Linda waited at home with a newborn, while Tom moved through long nights, earning a living and testing whether that voice could open any door for both of them. The nights of singing to survive gradually led Tom to another turning point, where ambition could no longer rely on applause in pubs alone. In 1963, he became the lead singer of Tommy Scott and the Senators, a band steeped in American R&B, dark, hot, and explosive. Before each show, Tom drank more beer than he needed, a way to push his adrenaline to its highest edge. On stage, he sang as if he had to burn the room down before it swallowed him. After each night, the reputation of setting the room on fire spread faster than his pay. Yet behind that energy was a cold truth. If he could not break through the door to London, everything would remain trapped here. That door opened in a distorted way. A demo reached Joe Meek, who was working in a cramped studio above a leather shop. The suffocating space, the eccentric methods, and the sudden changes of mind left Tom uneasy. The recording was never handed back. Half-spoken words left him feeling tested and then discarded. Tom walked away empty-handed, carrying a familiar doubt. Was that voice truly enough, or just an illusion fed by long nights? Then Gordon Mills appeared. Not with glamour, but with instinct. He saw in Tom something hard to name, a raw but rare stage instinct. Mills brought him to London, changed his stage name to Tom Jones, inspired by a film drawing attention at the time, and redirected everything. Image, song choices, the way he stood before the public. The transformation happened so quickly it filled Tom with both excitement and fear, as if another life were being placed on the shoulders of a man still worrying about rent. In 1964, the first single, Chills and Fever, was released and sank without a trace. Money ran low. Linda had to take factory work to support the family. Tom stood at the edge of quitting, not because he doubted his voice, but because belief did not pay the bills. In that fragile moment, another song appeared. And It's Not Unusual had not been meant for Tom. Sandy Shaw was the intended singer, but after hearing his recording, she stepped aside. Tom put everything into this chance, even threatening to walk away if the label refused to release it. When the song aired in 1965, it exploded. #1 in the UK, top 10 in the US. The BBC hesitated at his overtly sensual image and avoided broadcasting it. Radio Caroline played it relentlessly, creating pressure the mainstream could not ignore. In a short time, the boy who once sang through pub smoke became a name impossible to avoid, not through luck, but because he pushed his voice to its limit at the right moment, with the right song, and refused to step back. Before the blast of It's Not Unusual had cooled, cinema pulled Tom into another test, where the voice had to expand to the size of the screen. In 1965, What's New Pussycat came to him like an over-the-top joke. Its playful, mischievous melody made him question whether it suited the energy rising in his throat. Yet when the microphone opened, the song burst out with the compressed force of a thick baritone, turning something silly into irresistible charm. Audiences laughed, then remembered, then sang along. That same year, Thunderball confronted Tom with a purely physical challenge: to drive his voice through the dense Bond orchestra, holding the final note so long his body nearly collapsed from lack of air. That near-fainting moment was not showmanship. It set a new standard for a big voice, singing as if he had to overcome both the orchestra and himself. In 1966, the Grammy for Best New Artist gave Tom an official milestone. But Hollywood offered something else: Elvis Presley. They met when work brought Tom to America, and from that first encounter, a bond formed between two men who understood well the cost of public magnetism. No vows were needed. The understanding lasted through meetings, Vegas nights, and the silences that followed. As the decade moved quickly, Tom Jones's peak unfolded on many fronts, not as a string of scattered hits, but as a prolonged performance, each song a different scene in the same play. Delilah emerged like a miniature stage tragedy. The voice did not merely tell a jealous story, but pushed emotion to the edge, where each breath carried the scent of danger. That intensity did not frighten audiences. It held them there until the final second. Help Yourself went another way, displaying the ease of a star growing faster than expectations. There, Tom sang as if the stage were his living room, confident, generous, fully aware of the weight of every word. Then came Green, Green Grass of Home in 1966, gentle on the surface, soothing in melody, yet hiding a painful twist. The dream of a condemned man returning home. And Tom did not need to underline the tragedy. The way he held his low voice steady and slow gave each line the weight of fate. The song dominated UK charts for weeks, not through noise, but because it touched a universal sorrow. As times changed, Tom did not stand still. She's a lady dressed him in mature elegance, a man fully aware of his own allure. Mama Told Me Not to Come showed his ability to pivot with new rhythms, stepping into the party atmosphere of the next decade. You Can Leave Your Hat On stripped things down to near provocation, where each pause felt like an invitation. On stage, his thick baritone combined with a magnetism no one could teach, bold hip thrusts, shirts unbuttoned and soaked with sweat, lights striking a body in constant motion. The public argued, the press debated, yet every night the venues filled more tightly. Money came fast, Schedules grew dense. Television called. Vegas opened like a private kingdom. At the same time, the sex symbol image became a tight shirt, pressing against the private boundaries Tom tried to keep, even as music continued to pull him forward, never allowing him to slow down. That forward momentum quickly found a new launch pad when television entered the game. In the late 1960s, Tom signed a rare contract for a variety show titled This is Tom Jones. Broadcast simultaneously in the UK and the US from 1969 to 1971, yet the program was built on a scale that even major networks viewed with caution. A full orchestra, constantly shifting stage designs, a demanding recording schedule, and production costs high enough to turn each episode into an event. The names stepping onto the stage beside Tom were not there to support. Stevie Wonder brought the fluidity of modern soul, Ella Fitzgerald set the standard of classic jazz, The Who ignited rock energy, and Janis Joplin appeared like an uncontrollable flame. Tom stood at the center, not swallowed by the force of his guests, but holding command through a voice and presence forged on major stages. The show reached both sides of the Atlantic, expanding Tom's image from singer to master of the entertainment space, earning a Golden Globe nomination as recognition of that new authority. Alongside the small screen, another kingdom had opened earlier and would not close for decades. In 1967, Tom stepped onto the Flamingo stage in Las Vegas and nearly reinvented his image. Tight leather pants, deep open shirts, hot lights, and auditoriums packed with ecstatic female fans created a nightly ritual. Stories quickly became legend. At first, tissues were thrown up to wipe sweat from the singer, then underwear began flying onto the stage. Tom kept singing, catching them as if they were part of the rhythm, a game between performer and crowd. The gesture was not random. It reflected the absolute confidence of a man who understood he held the room's emotions. Las Vegas became a relentless money machine. At his peak, income reached around $100,000 a week, and the run of shows lasted not for a few seasons, but for decades. And from the late 1960s until 2011, each night repeated the formula of success, yet the pressure never eased. Maintain the energy, the voice, the image at maximum level. Amid blazing lights and flowing money, Tom kept moving fast, as if stopping meant losing the power that had brought him there. Parallel to lights that never dimmed, another life existed steadily, but was rarely faced directly. Tom and Linda had known each other from very early on, marrying when both were too young to foresee the storms ahead. From the beginning, Linda chose to stand outside the fame machine. No touring, no interviews, no participation in image building. She kept the home as a buffer zone, where real life was not swallowed by schedules and applause. That choice was both anchor and boundary. Tom stepped into the world each night. Linda stayed to keep order for the next day. That boundary was constantly tested. As fame swelled, Tom admitted that his peak years were marked by dense infidelity, to the point he once said the number could reach 250 women in a year. The excess was not just rumor, and it functioned like a habit, enabled by touring schedules and backstage rooms where fans met him privately. Linda knew, and she was not silent in blind endurance. There were direct confrontations, explosive emotional and physical reactions when betrayal surfaced. She kept Tom in line, in the rough way of the one who stayed behind. No idealizing, no excuses, only forcing him back to reality where dinner, children, and daily life still demanded responsibility. Some relationships went beyond rumor. With Mary Wilson, it was not only physical, but emotional, occurring in a time when interracial relationships still shocked society, enough to push the marriage to the brink. The Marjorie Wallace episode carried heavier echoes. Beach photos that cost her the crown, a broken engagement, The accident that took Peter Revson's life while he wore the pendant she had given him. The shock leading to an overdose attempt and survival. Flowers were sent. Later meetings in Mexico followed, and a shadow of memory lingered for years. The name Charlotte Laws also appeared in that chain of stories, a reminder that such ties never fully sever. On the other side, Linda remained, not as a symbol of silent endurance, but as the keeper of order for a family stretched between two rhythms of life. And she understood fame fed them, but also that small, ordinary things were what held them together. Her worldview centered on the durability of everyday life, the very thing easily overlooked when lights are too bright. In 2016, cancer closed Linda's journey. For Tom, it was the heaviest blow of his life. Confessions came late, no longer to repair, but to confront. The most important person had always been there, and that value became clear only when it could not be returned to. The loss did not erase what had happened, but it forced Tom to face the cost of moving too fast, while the one who guarded real life had quietly stood still for 59 years. After fame and touring had carried Tom to almost unimaginable earnings, money no longer felt like a reward, but became a matter of survival strategy. In 1974, at the height of Britain's aggressive tax policies, when personal income could be taxed up to 98%, Tom decided to leave the UK for Los Angeles. It was a defensive move more than an ambitious one, protecting the fruits of his labor by changing his place of living. Later, Tom himself admitted the choice left a difficult void. Staying away from his home market too long disrupted his international momentum, and standing outside certain music centers was not always an advantage. Money did not exist only on stage. With Gordon Mills, Tom entered the business world through Mam Records, which initially thrived by catching public taste and building a strong artist ecosystem. But as American competition tightened, cracks quickly showed. Gilbert O'Sullivan's royalties lawsuit became the decisive blow. The court ordered a large compensation payout, leading to the label's collapse and eventual sale. The lesson came at a high cost. Power in the studio did not grant immunity from legal risk, and fame could not guarantee a weak business structure. At the same time, Tom pursued risk diversification. He invested in private aviation, slot machine companies, and real estate, industries operating on cycles different from music. Mark, his son and manager, played a crucial role here. Financial discipline, contract negotiations, and ensuring cash flow was not swept away by the emotional rhythm of the stage. These decisions were not as glamorous as a sold-out show, but they created a cushion so Tom would not have to undersell his voice when tastes shifted. The figure often mentioned at the end of the story, around $300 million according to estimates cited in the video, exists more as a marker than a formal audit. It reflects decades of transition, from ticket sales and royalties to investments and learning to accept losses when mistakes occurred. Within those numbers lies a chain of decisions tied to timing, markets, and the price paid for choosing financial security over constant public presence. Wealth, legal structures, companies, and streams of income once gave Tom Jones the sense that everything could be arranged through contracts. Yet some consequences never appear on a balance sheet. Some fractures did not come from stage lights or packed schedules, but from a moment that seemed fleeting. In October 1987, during a night in New York, Tom met Catherine Berkery, then only 24. 3 nights at the Ritz-Carlton passed as quickly as the lifestyle Tom had known for years, but their consequences lasted a lifetime. On June 27, 1988, Catherine gave birth to a boy, Jonathan Berkery, and that name opened another side of Tom Jones's public story. In 1989, a paternity suit reached court. Tom's legal team adopted a cold strategy, attacking Catherine's character and turning her private life into public scrutiny. Eventually, a DNA test was ordered, returning a 99.76% probability. Enough for Judge Judith Scheindlin to rule that Tom was the biological father. Financial obligations were set. Reports mention monthly child support, along with additional costs for health care, insurance, and education. Money was present, but what was missing was a father's presence. Nearly 2 decades passed in that absence. No visits, no birthday cards, no emotional bridge. In 2008, Tom publicly acknowledged the biological relationship, but his wording, blaming temptation, deepened Jonathan's hurt. For a child raised in silence, that late admission did not heal. It confirmed the feeling of rejection, and the consequences stretched into Jonathan's life. Years of rebellion, frequent school changes, searching for older male figures in misguided ways, as if trying to fill an unnamed void. By 2018, as an adult, Jonathan experienced homelessness and appeared in the media with a simple plea: to meet his father, not for money. The silence that followed turned the fracture into something beyond repair. At the same time, another relationship existed, quieter yet marked by distance. Mark, Tom's son, with Linda. During the years Tom was absent on tour, a gap between father and son had formed. Mark's later role as manager was not merely a career choice. It became a way for the two to find common ground again, using work as a bridge to speak what had once been missed. While one bond was tightened through time and responsibility, the other remained suspended, a reminder that fame can cover many things. But not the moral deficits revealed when the lights go out. Before the emptiness within the family could be filled, the axis of Tom's career turned sharply in another direction. In 1986, Gordon Mills died, the man who had built both the road and the familiar cage around that voice. Why, his passing forced Tom to face a cold reality. If he continued drifting on old momentum, he would slowly become a memory. Mark stepped into the management role not as a loud reinvention, but like quiet corrective surgery. Less flash, stripping away some of the Vegas gloss, searching again for what had made the voice explode in the first place. 2 years later, the turn came at the right moment. Kiss, the Prince cover with Art of Noise, asked no permission. It was stripped down, sharp, cool, and provocative. The video ended with the simple removal of sunglasses, no explanation needed, like a wink to a generation that had never lived through the 1960s. Tom did not come back. He appeared in a different space, where age was not a burden, but the density of the voice itself. Young audiences stepped in, not for nostalgia, but for boldness. That rhythm continued through other unexpected choices. In 1994, collaborating with Tori Amos showed Tom willing to place his voice in an unsafe setting where vulnerability was allowed to surface. Then, in 1999, Reload flung open the remaining doors. Duets with the Cardigans, Stereophonics, Robbie Williams, each track placing Tom at the center of the contemporary music world. Sex Bomb with Moose T turned him into the pulse of European dance floors, both mocking the old image and using it as pure energy. According to figures mentioned in the video, this became the biggest album of his career, selling millions, not through memory, but through adaptation. The knighthood in 2006 stamped recognition on a long journey, yet Tom did not stop at ceremony. From 2010 onward, he moved toward rawer textures, praise and blame, then spirit in the room. Producers advised removing sonic ornamentation. Tom agreed. Blues and gospel returned as backbone, allowing breath and the grain of his baritone to tell the story. No longer needing visual scaffolding, the voice stood bare under the lights, carrying age as part of its structure. Each later appearance, from stage to studio, felt not like once more, but like something else. Right time, right reason. From that stripped sound, Tom stepped further into public life in a way no one expected. In 2012, he took a seat as a coach on The Voice UK, not as a monument passing down wisdom, but as a voice still in motion. The camera caught patience, the subtlety of listening rather than displays of authority. Younger audiences did not see him as the past. They saw him as a living presence, quick in response, direct, without excess. 3 years later, a sharp turn came when the BBC abruptly removed him from the show, leaving an uneasy silence between public image and backstage decisions. When The Voice moved to ITV, an invitation to return came as a late correction. Tom came back, this time becoming the most beloved face, not through controversy, but through a sincerity difficult to imitate. Music moved alongside that rhythm. Long Lost Suitcase, 2015, dug deeper into blues and soul, placing his voice inside old stories without nostalgia, as if he were speaking to himself in a quieter room. After 2016, personal grief was not hidden. It was brought into the studio. Surrounded by Time, 2021, emerged from that loss and went straight to #1 in the UK, setting the age record highlighted in the video, the oldest male artist to top the chart with new material. No tricks, only voice, years lived, and songs that allowed time to speak. Touring in the years after did not slow. In 2024, Tom performed a heavy schedule, 74 shows across 24 countries. A figure that turned the word pensioner in the video into gentle irony. By 2025, that rhythm continued, interrupted by postponements due to respiratory infections. The memories of laryngitis and hip replacements, forcing the body to pay for decades under the lights. On stage, the voice still searched for ways past physical limits. Backstage, each slower step reminded him that the cost of endurance is never abstract. And within that tension, music kept being chosen as the only way forward, without the need for explanation. When the lights go down and tour schedules close, the part of Tom's life rarely seen comes into focus through very specific choices. His life once stretched along the axis of work. Los Angeles for studios and real estate, Las Vegas for the relentless performance rhythm, Wales for a sense of roots. Gradually, that space narrowed. The Bel Air house that once belonged to Dean Martin, purchased in the 1970s and carrying old Hollywood aura, was sold years later at a price the video mentions as symbolic. In 1998, another Los Angeles home was bought for $2.1 million. Linda personally chose leopard print interiors, turning the house into a dramatic private world. After 2016, that home too was sold, and Tom moved back to London. A quiet decision, in line with Linda's wishes as he drew his life into smaller, quieter rooms. In Wales, there was also a boutique hotel-style property in the Vale of Glamorgan, complete with home cinema, private bar, tennis court, not for display, but for refuge. Moving between those spaces was a car collection reflecting classic taste mixed with boldness. Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud or Phantom for unhurried journeys. Bentley Continental GT/GTC for power wrapped in leather. Jaguar E-Type and Mark models for the memory of speed. Range Rover Vogue for practicality. Ferrari California for moments of freedom. At one time, even a Ford Mustang GT as a nod to America. Off stage, Tom found another rhythm on the golf course, both for leisure and charity tournaments. His favorite food remained traditional British fare, steak and kidney pie. Warm, direct, like the way he speaks. In fashion, kept the discipline of tailored suits while not shying away from striking accessories. At home, Welsh memorabilia stood beside career relics, like two parallel axes of life. Some habits surprise outsiders. Before sleep, Tom tapes his mouth shut to prevent throat dryness, preserving moisture for his voice, a crude but effective method, showing he treats his voice like a muscle needing daily maintenance. His spiritual life also bears a deep mark from a near-death experience off the coast of Mexico, when currents pulled him far from shore. In that breathless moment, he clutched a necklace and prayed to a force beyond reason. Since then, faith has not been a slogan but a quiet habit. What he does for others happens without spectacle. Support for Nordhoff Robbins, the Prince's Trust, Music Hates Racism, backing for the Bright School, and programs opening musical opportunities for disadvantaged communities. Not for image, but from the memory of a boy once listening to the radio in a closed room. In those details, that Tom's private life appears not as a footnote to fame, but as the structure that supports both the voice and the man. After 2016, when the final door of married life closed, Tom chose a narrower, deeper rhythm of existence. He lives alone in London, does not remarry, does not rebuild another family structure. Evenings in the quiet apartment often end with one-sided conversations with Linda's photograph. For a time, he kept her clothes and perfume, as if that familiar scent could hold on to an old order. Grief does not dissolve through touring. It is handled in human ways, seeing a therapist to learn how to get up in the morning, even turning to psychics in the fragile hope of hearing some signal from the other side of silence. His body has begun to speak in ways that cannot be ignored. In 2017, and again in 2022, hip replacement surgeries forced Tom to accept new limits. A cane appeared. Some nights he performs seated, conserving movement to preserve strength for the voice. In July 2022 in Budapest, footage circulated of him stopping a show, sparking rumors of collapse. Tom rejected that description, citing laryngitis and vocal issues. Treatments afterward happened quietly without drama, but enough to remind that each performance now balances willpower and biology. In early 2025, touring was again interrupted by a respiratory infection, another postponement in a series of reminders that endurance is no longer infinite. Still, life's rhythm does not stop. The Ages and Stages tour keeps moving, and a way of traveling through layers of age with a voice that has changed color over time. On television, his role as mentor on The Voice UK keeps him in the current of younger voices, where he does not need to show off, yet remains a point of stability. Phrases often repeated, "Stopping is death," "Singing until he can no longer sing," are not shock slogans, but a survival equation proven through every pain, every return to the stage. Growing old under the lights, living alone behind the curtain, Tom continues to confront silence with the only weapon he trusts. Stepping out, taking his familiar position, and letting his voice, deeper now, slower, speak for all the empty spaces. Tom Jones's legacy does not fit neatly into a single era or an easily defined kind of success. He is not merely a product of the British invasion, nor confined to the sex symbol image of Las Vegas, nor a nostalgic voice living off the past. The most enduring thing he leaves behind is the ability to exist across time without denying himself. From the thick, emotionally explosive baritone of the 1960s to the raw gospel blues recordings after 70, Tom shows that a voice does not need to be young to matter, only honest with what life has placed upon it. In popular music, he opened a rare path, a singer who could dominate the charts, hold live stages for decades, and return at the right moments to speak to new generations without pretending to be young. Tom's comebacks were not random revivals, but the result of accepting change, from Prince to Moose T, from glossy studios to stripped-down recordings, from Vegas spotlights to performing seated on stage because of aching hips. He does not hide the wear, he carries it into the sound of his voice. On a human level, that legacy is complex and far from polished. There was a love that lasted 59 years yet carried deep wounds. There were choices that left moral fractures impossible to mend, especially in the story of his son born outside marriage. There is a man who is wealthy and famous, yet ultimately lives alone, speaking to a photograph of his late wife to push back against silence. These contradictions do not weaken the legacy. They make it more real, harder to digest, and therefore more memorable. Across a journey spanning more than 6 decades, Tom Jones appears not as an unchanging legend, but as a living organism constantly adapting. He has aged in public, endured pain in public, and still steps onto the stage while many of his peers have long withdrawn. If there is a question that lingers after all the songs, scandals, awards, and returns, it is not how famous he became, but this: how much passed? How many mistakes and losses can a person carry and still stand upright under the lights? And if that voice has ever been with you in a moment of your life, a night when the radio played Green, Green Grass of Home, a blazing Vegas stage, or a quiet recording in his 80s, leave a thought for the man who chose to sing until he no longer could. So if you want to keep exploring lives that are both brilliant and fragile behind the legend, stay with the channel so stories like this do not fade into silence.